Hashem, Hashem, Keil Rachum V'Chanun, a merciful God, Erech Apayim, Erech Apayim, for Rav Chesed Be'emes. These are the 13 attributes of mercy. You say this three times, and then you say, Rabbonu Shel Olam. This whole prayer over here, this is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Fill the desires of my heart for good. I advise you to buy a machzor that has English in it, English translation. Forgive all my sins, etc., etc. That's what it says. It goes to the next page. And this is for the three holidays, the word Sukkot, etc. Pesach. This is when you're taking the Torah out. Good. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll do it this way. It seems to be a little bit clearer. I'll do it from here. Here we go. Much clearer. Excuse me, please. Excuse me. We have the Torah. Here we go. Good. Ready? Yes. Can you read? Is this better? What do you say? On the Rosh Hashanah, that we take out the Sefer Torah and we say three times the 13 attributes of mercy, just like I showed you. And then we say the Rabbonu Shel Olam that I also showed you just now. You take out two Sefer Torahs. How can I get rid of this thing? Spot here? Oh, okay. Take out two Sefer Torahs. Two Sefer Torahs. It's proper that before the prayer, either the evening or whatever, that you should roll the Sefer Torah where it's supposed to be read so that it won't take up time from the congregation. You have to wait while you roll it up. This is generally true for all the holidays of Shabbat also. But don't roll the Sefer Torah from the first day of Rosh Hashanah or the first day of whatever to another day. Because you can't, the reading of Rosh Hashanah is basically the same place. It's one right after the other. One reading right after the other. The story of the birth of Yitzchak and how Avram took Yitzchak to sacrifice him. On the first day of Rosh Hashanah, we read the Parshas by Hashem Pakad et Sora. How Sora gave birth to Yitzchak. In the end of Parshas Lech Lecha. They go up to the Torah. 5 people. 5 people go up to the Torah. If it goes up on Shabbos like this year, 7 people. You divide the reading to 7 people. And on the second day, second day of Rosh Hashanah, we read the Akedah, which is right after the birth of Yitzchak. The Akedah, how Akedah means the binding, how Avram bound his son. The other book we read, we read the Maftir. The Maftir is the same thing each day. Right? We read that, which is found in Parshas Pinchas. Therefore, you should have 2 Sefer Torahs. When you finish reading the Sefer Torah, and then you put the Sefer Torah on the bima next to the first one, because you're going to be reading from 2 Torahs, right? The first one you read the regular parsha, and then you're going to read the Haftorah from the second Sefer Torah. So when you finish reading the first one, you leave the Sefer Torah there, roll it up, but you leave it there. You put the second one next to it, and you say Chetzi Kaddish. Chetzi Kaddish. Afterwards, you lift up the first Sefer Torah, and you don't remove the covering of the second Sefer Torah until after you lift up and roll up the first Sefer Torah. So what do? You finish reading from the first Sefer Torah. First Sefer Torah, you finish reading it. 1 second. All right. You finish reading this first Sefer Torah. You don't roll it up. You don't lift it up. You just move it to the side, and you bring the second Sefer Torah there. Second, and you say Chetzi Kaddish. Then afterwards, you lift up the first Sefer Torah. You put the mantle on the first Sefer Torah, and then you remove the mantle from the second Torah, and you read from it. Good. So in other words, you say Kaddish between the reading of the first Torah, Sefer Torah, and the second. And after you say Kaddish, you lift up the first Sefer Torah and show it to everybody. Some people have a custom that the one who reads the Torah is the one who sounds the shofar. Some people have the custom that also the Shliach Tzibur of Musaf and also on Yom Kippur if he's receiving money for sounding the shofar in the prayer, then you don't have to call them up for learning of the Torah, to reading. You don't have to give them a but nevertheless, it's better that you should call up for the mafter, an important person, a person who is married, and for the importance of the day, important person. When there is only one Sefer Torah, and you have to roll it up in order to read the maftir, right? The maftir. Then don't roll it until after you say Chetzi Kaddish. You say the Chetzi Kaddish, and then you roll the first Sefer. You only have one Sefer Torah. You roll it up to the place where you're supposed to read in Parshas Pinchas. Why does it do that? I don't know. Okay. All right. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the custom is to read the Torah with a special cantillation. And the Yomim Noraim. Usually you read, like, for instance, Vayehi on like a Revi, Vayehi, or Vayehi on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you read like this. Vayehi. Right? It's different. It's a different reading, different song. And also, we make the blessings of the Torah also. With a different sound, it's a different song. It's a custom. If there's a bris milah on Rosh Hashanah, bris milah, then we circumcise the child after reading the Torah, right? After the Torah reading, but before the sounding of the shofar. Shofar is sounded after the Torah reading is finished. If you make a bris in your house, right, you're going to go afterwards. You're not going to make the circumcision. Then you wait for the prayers to finish, the whole prayers, and you go home afterwards. And then you make the circumcision at home. Okay, the Rebbes of Chabad. Now, there's a thing called Yizkor. Now, usually people do not make Yizkor on Rosh Hashanah, but the Rebbes of Chabad did. They said Yizkor on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, after reading the Torah, before it's read, and you can do the same thing. Okay, now we're going to learn what happened. Yes. Okay, now we're going to learn, we're going to 5 more minutes, the order of sounding the shofar and the blessings. The order of sounding the shofar and its blessings. Good, yes.